Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make geometric designs like the one you see on my screen using the polar grid tool and symbols, and then I'll show you how to colorize them using the live paint bucket tool, all in Adobe Illustrator. Let's move to a new document and get started. Now there are two things you're going to need to make sure you have turned on first. Let's go to View. And I'm going to come down here and make sure Smart Guides is turned on. You can toggle these on and off with the keyboard shortcut Command U. The other thing is you're going to need the advanced toolbar setting. If you're wondering which one you have, if there's just one column of tools on the left toolbar, you've got the basic setting, and you'll need to move up to Window, down to Toolbars, and click Advanced. I always leave this checked because it gives me quick access to a lot more tools. Now we're going to find the Polar Grid tool on the left toolbar behind the Line Segment tool. I'll click down with my mouse to get the flyout menu and come down and choose Polar Grid tool. Then I click on the artboard with my mouse, and that opens the Polar Grid tool options dialog box, where I'll type in 8 inches for the width, tab down and type in 8 inches for the height. Then I'm going to change the number of concentric dividers to 6. This is the number of circles that are going to be in the polar grid. And then for radial dividers, I'll change that number to 10, and that's going to be the number of pie pieces that are in the grid. Next, I'll say OK, and I want to center this on the artboard, so I'll come to the Properties panel and click on Horizontal Align Center and then Vertical Align Center. Then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. Now for this project, I need one of my pie pieces to be centered at the top of the grid, and so I'm going to have to rotate the grid. But I can't just eyeball the rotation because it needs to be precise. So I'm going to have to do a little math. I know there are 360 degrees in every circle, and I know I have 10 equally spaced pie pieces. So what I'll do is divide 360 degrees by 10 to give me 36 degrees, and that's the angle measurement of each one of my pie pieces. But if I rotate the grid 36 degrees, I'm just going to be moving the pie pieces around and not getting anything centered. So I have to rotate half of the angle measurement of one of the pie pieces. So 36 divided by 2 is 18, and 18 degrees is what I'll be rotating the grid. I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and place my cursor on that center anchor. And I see the word anchor because I have those Smart Guides turned on. I'm going to hold down the Option key and click down with my mouse, and this opens the Rotate dialog box. Now remember, I said 18 degrees for the rotation, and then I'll say OK, and now I have one of my pie pieces centered on that grid. Now I have the 10 pie pieces I asked for, but I asked for 6 concentric dividers. Let's count them. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For some reason, Illustrator always adds an extra concentric divider, but when we begin to manipulate these and remove some of these pieces, Illustrator is going to automatically remove this outside concentric divider. So just don't be concerned when you see it go away. Now I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and what we're going to do is use this center pie piece for our symbol and delete all of the rest of them. And move over to the Properties panel, and in the Pathfinder area, click on the ellipsis and choose the Divide Pathfinder. That's going to allow me to break this down and get rid of the pieces I don't want. I've got to click on the artboard to deselect it and then select it again and ungroup everything. Keyboard shortcut, Shift Command G. Click on the artboard to deselect, and now I'm able to select the pieces I don't want. So I'll start off with the bottom half of the circle, select it and delete it, and immediately I've lost that outside concentric circle. Now I'm going to speed this up and get rid of the rest of the pieces I don't want. Now I'm going to select the remaining pieces. I'm going to change the stroke color to a light gray, and then I'm going to group these together, keyboard shortcut Command G. Now there are two reasons I use the light gray color. One is if I use a darker color as I add the design to that pie piece, I'm going to be able to see that design a lot easier. The second one I'll show you in a few minutes. Now before I turn this into a symbol, I want to make a copy. So I'm going to select the design, hold down the Option key to make the copy, and I'll just drag one over here to the top right corner of the artboard. That way, if I don't like the way this one turns out, I don't have to start from the very beginning. I have an extra copy ready to use. To make my symbol, I've got to get the Symbols panel. I'll move up to Window, down to Symbols, and you can see Illustrator comes with a few symbols already in the Symbols panel. We're not going to use any of those today, but I'm going to click down on the Symbols tab, drag and dock that Symbols tab next to the Layers tab. I'll select the design we're going to use. Then I'll go to the bottom bar of the Symbols panel and click on the new symbol icon. It's the little square with the plus sign in it, and this opens the Symbol Options dialog box. I'm going to name this Design 1, change the export type to graphic and the symbol type to static, and say OK. Now we have the symbol in the Symbols panel, but Illustrator has also converted the design that was selected on the artboard into a symbol, and I can tell that because I have this little plus sign here in the center. I'm going to use the symbol that's already on the artboard, but I could delete this and drag a symbol from the Symbols panel onto the artboard. The thing to know is that as you make changes on the artboard to this symbol, those changes are going to be reflected in the Symbols panel, and you're not going to have this original pie piece any longer. And what we're going to do is use this symbol to recreate a circle, and then we'll begin the design. I've got to use the Rotate tool again, keyboard shortcut R, and unfortunately this time Smart Guides won't help me. So I've got to be very careful to place my cursor right on that bottom anchor, hold down the Option key and click down with my mouse. And this time I will use the 36 degrees, which is that angle of the pie pieces. So I'll type in 36 degrees, but instead of pressing OK, I'm going to press Copy. Now notice the line in between these two pieces is thicker than the line on the outsides here, and that's because I didn't get my cursor perfectly placed at the bottom of the symbol. So I'm going to delete this and we'll try it again. And the reason I'm so concerned about this is because the design on the symbol is going to be repeated all the way around a circle I'm about to make, and if the symbol isn't lined up perfectly, then the designs won't be either. I'll get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select the design, get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, move my cursor to the very center, hold down the Option key and click down with my mouse. I have 36 degrees for the rotation, and I'll press Copy, and that looks much better. So while the copy is still selected, I'll duplicate the move, keyboard shortcut Command D, and I'll press Command D enough times to complete this circle, then get the Selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect that last piece. Now I'm ready to begin drawing my design, and it's going to go inside this top center symbol. But I've first got to move into the symbol editing mode, and it may look a lot like the isolation mode to you, but this is what we use for symbols. So to get there, I've got to double click the symbol, and I know I'm there because I have this gray bar which is now at the top of my artboard. I have the name of the symbol here, and I have this little arrow here which allows me to exit this editing mode. We're going to stay in the mode and we're going to begin drawing. I'll get the Line Segment tool, keyboard shortcut \. I've got to move to the Properties panel and change the color of the stroke though, and I'm just going to use a black 1-point stroke. And I'm going to start at the bottom center anchor. I'll hold down the Shift key because I want to drag in a straight vertical line, and I'm going to come up to this top of the circle, and when I see the word intersect, I know I've reached the top, so I'll release my mouse. Then I'll come to the left side, looking for the anchor, drag up to the top anchor, and then come to the right side, drag up with the anchor, come to the next circle, intersect with that path, same on the right. This time I'm going to start at the top, and I want to make sure that I'm intersecting with the line itself. Come up to that intersection there. I'm going to drag down to this bottom circle, looking for the word anchor. Then get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect the line. Get the line segment tool, keyboard shortcut \. I just find it easier to do that, to get up to the anchor again, and drag down to the bottom anchor and release my mouse, and get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect it. Now, if you think you have the design about like you want it, you can preview it by exiting the symbol editing mode. We do that by either clicking on this little arrow here or by pressing the escape key, which is what I'm going to do. As I press the escape key, Illustrator distributes the design around the circle in each one of the pie pieces, and because I was very precise in matching up the paths, everything is lining up perfectly. I'm happy with the design, but I don't want to keep the grid itself, so I've got to move back into the editing mode. So I'll double click it, and again, I'm in the editing mode. I'll select one of the light gray pieces of the grid, and this is the other reason why I use a different color for my grid as I do for the design, because I can come up here and choose select, same, stroke color, and all the gray pieces of that symbol have been selected, and all I have to do is press the delete key and they're gone. Now I'll click on the gray arrow to exit the editing mode, and here's our completed design. Now I can still double click this and go back and edit it, but we're not going to do that. I like the design the way it is, and now I want to add some color. However, I can't add color until I expand the design. So I'm going to select the design. I'll come up to Object and click on Expand. Make sure Object and Fill are checked and say OK. Now we're ready to add color, and we'll do that using the Live Paint Bucket tool, which is located on the left toolbar in a flyout menu underneath the Shape Builder tool. So I'm going to click on this tool that gives me the flyout, and here's the Live Paint Bucket. I can also use the keyboard shortcut K. Once I have the tool active, my cursor looks completely different, and when I use it to hover over any design or object that was already selected on the artboard, I get a message that tells me to click on it to turn it into a live paint group, and I have to do that first. So I'll click down with my mouse, and now I'm ready to add color. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video as I add different colors to the various pieces on our design, but I want you to know that even at regular speed, using the Live Paint Bucket tool to add color is a super fast process, and one that you need to learn and take advantage of. I'm going to leave a link to a tutorial about the Live Paint Bucket tool at the end of this video, and I encourage you to check it out next because there is a lot that this little tool has to offer. Now, once all the colors added, I need to expand the design so it's no longer a live paint group. So I'm going to go up to Object, down to Live Paint. I don't want to click Release or all of the color will be removed. I simply want to click Expand. And then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and then I'll click on the artboard to deselect it. The last thing I want to do is remove the stroke, so I'll select the design, come over to the stroke color icon, click here, and remove all color. Then I'll click on the artboard to deselect the design, and here's the final product, which I love the way it's turned out. But this is just scratching the surface of the different kinds of designs that you can create using this particular technique. I'm going to go over to the Layers panel and hide our symbol copy, and I'll show you some of the other things you can do. You can use simple lines, you can add objects, you can even add text, and you can play around with the stroke for an entirely different effect. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you're already thinking about the ways you can use the Polar Grid tool and symbols to create your designs. I'm also going to leave a link to a tutorial about the Polar Grid tool because I want you to know all the other things that this great little tool can do. So be sure and check that out, as well as the tutorial about the Live Paint Bucket tool. And I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future tutorials, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.